Fellow pediatricians, it gives me great pleasure to send you a few thoughts on the occasion of the World Breastfeeding Week. As many of you know, breastfeeding and particularly the rights to exclusive breastfeeding amongst women and children worldwide have been in the news recently, sadly for the wrong reasons. You are aware of the fact that there has been a public outcry on attempts to dilute global action to promote breastfeeding. And these become starkly important for pediatricians worldwide, given what we know about the issues and challenges around promotion of breastfeeding as a fundamental right for children worldwide. Globally, breastfeeding rates have been relatively static. In many places, early initiation rates for breastfeeding are still struggling around 40-50%, and when you come down to exclusive breastfeeding, by 6 months of age, we find that in many geographies of the world, particularly in low and middle income countries where breastfeeding is virtually an insurance against premature death and morbidity in children, we find that exclusive breastfeeding rates by 6 months are less than 20-30% in many regions. Why is this important? Because breastfeeding saves lives. We now know for sure from scientific review of the evidence that compared to babies who are exclusively breastfed, if you don't have access to human milk or mother's milk, the risk of mortality in many circumstances can be as high as 10 to 14 folds. And we see that there is a dose-response relationship because in relation to exclusive breastfeeding, even babies who are partially breastfed or predominantly breastfed have higher risks than those who are exclusively breastfed. And these are not minimal. We know that these are associated also with adverse outcomes in relation to burden of disease. And we also have strong evidence to suggest that babies who breastfeed have better interaction with their mothers and may also have hugely beneficial impacts on the mother's own health as well. So the evidence around the global benefits of breastfeeding to both the mother and baby are fairly well established. So why do we have such a challenge in terms of improving things worldwide? The reasons for these are complex, and they also relate to principally the social determinants of supporting breastfeeding in many geographies. They relate to rights of women, to adequate state support in terms of maternity leave, in terms of protection in employment to allow them to breastfeed their babies without incurring huge economic penalties and difficulties in terms of doing so. So we need to address certainly the legislation and the state protection and the economic underpinnings of promotion of breastfeeding worldwide. We also need to ensure that we have evidence-based strategies for action. So scientific evidence now very clearly indicates that both community-based strategies, household, home-level counseling, group counseling, can have a huge impact in terms of improving rates of early initiation of breastfeeding and exclusive breastfeeding. We know that those impacts are between 25, 60, 70% increase in many places. And importantly, the evidence strongly suggests also that the baby-friendly hospital initiative, if you look at the evidence closely, is one of the most evidence-based interventions for supporting and promoting breastfeeding. So what do we need to do to move forward? Pediatricians worldwide need to unite behind the message of the importance of exclusive breastfeeding as a fundamental right for every child, and also as a right for every woman who wants to do so and cannot do so because of barriers. So for those women who, for a variety of reasons, are unable to breastfeed, there is no stigma attached to not being able to do so, and pediatricians need to be hugely supportive in those circumstances as well. So as I speak to you in this very important week of globally supporting breastfeeding as pediatricians, I also want to reach out to politicians, finance ministers, and planners to ensure that as we face this challenge together, that we are able to create the environment where breastfeeding is supported across all sections of society and through mechanisms and measures that support economic empowerment of women and families to have exclusive breastfeeding.